Customer service is just acting without health insurance. You nod, you refill. You ignore the guy calling the server boy and lecturing on tipping like he invented currency. Usually that's the end of it, but Booth 7 had other plans. Jason Statham stood, calm as a checklist, and the laughter tripped over itself. If you've got a few minutes, I'll tell you how the loudest man left looking for the exit sign. My name's Nate, and I wear a black apron that could tell you more about this town than any history teacher. It smells like coffee, spilled secrets, and a dozen apologies that arrived late and left early. The diner is chrome and neon and stubborn hope, wedged between a payday loan place and a laundromat that hums like a tired lullaby. The bell above the door coughs every time someone walks in, like even it's embarrassed to be here. This is where night shift lives. Nurses with raccoon eyes, truckers who measure states in coffee cups, students who mistake pancakes for therapy, and people like me, who add and subtract dignity by the plate. The Thursday rush had already chewed me up. 11 tables, 2 cooks, 1 dishwasher who only exists when the health inspector visits. My manager, Sterling, real name Paul but he insists, was doing his usual impression of leadership, standing near the register, refreshing the schedule on his phone like it owed him money. He's got a tie that tries to strangle him and a smile that files HR paperwork in your head. He can sense conflict the way a cat senses bath time, and he responds the same, disappears into the back like it's Narnia. I had regulars that night. A nurse named Deb who tips in exact percentages and swear words, 2 graveyard mechanics who look like brothers or co-defendants, and Booth 7, a quiet guy in a gray hoodie. He wasn't famous in the room yet. He'd come in a handful of times this month, always late, always alone. He ordered simple, burger medium, no onions, fries extra crisp, water no ice. He ate like a machine that respects food, efficient, appreciative, no theatrics. He read receipts the way some people read fortunes. He sat with his back to the wall and his eyes on the exits, not paranoid, just trained. I'd clocked him early because tension recognizes its own. You work enough nights and you learn to read posture, hands, breath. His hands didn't fidget. His shoulders didn't brag. He took up exactly the space he needed and no more. Most loud men want the room to know they arrived. This guy wanted the room to function safely. There's a difference. Enter table 4. They came in like a weather system, expensive laughter, lemony cologne, the kind of watch that says my phone battery died and I got lonely. 4 men, all mid-30s, all recently introduced to the idea that money can dress up personality. The one in front had a belly that arrived half a second before the rest of him, and a haircut graded on a curve. He wore rings that could open a can of soup. His shirt was tight enough to file for workers' comp. He tapped the please wait to be seated, signed like it owed him an apology, and then seated himself anyway. I don't mind confidence. I mind rehearsal. You can tell when someone is practicing being human at your expense. Look lively, the belly said, like he was directing a parade of unpaid interns. He snapped twice. There are few sounds that boil a server's soul faster than that double snap. It's the audio version of I don't tip. Evening, I said, because I need the electricity. Menus are just here. He didn't take one. He glanced at the laminated cover like it was a subpoena. We doing bottle service or just disappointment? Coffee and sodas, I said. Disappointment's complimentary. His friends laughed, which told me they were only brave in groups. Belly's eyes did the little glitter of a man deciding how much of a problem he wants to be. 2 waters, he said. No ice. The last place tried to sneak ice in like it was free. It is free. Then that's how they get you. He looked at the others. They build it into the price. That's margin. Tragic, I said, and walked the tray back to the drink station because my mouth does not feed my rent. This is the drill. Bring water, pretend not to hear the way he calls you boy, correct his order twice, return the food that was cooked exactly how he asked but no longer how he remembers. You apologize for physics. You apologize for gravity. You apologize for the fact that his mother didn't hug him enough and now he thinks the world is customer service. I brought the waters. He lifted one, sniffed it like he was shopping for a yacht and put it down. Too wet, he said. The table did a sitcom laugh. It was the kind of joke you make when you've never built anything with your hands. You want me to wring it out, I said. See, that's the attitude problem. He wagged a ringed finger like a disappointed coach. You're a service professional, I'll teach you something about tips. Tips are for performance, like acting. If you're good, you get paid. If you're not, you learn. That's capitalism. Acting without health insurance, I said. We do our own stunts. One of his friends winced in apology to me. The other two smirked the way kids smirk when they're copy-pasting a bully's personality. Belly checked the room to make sure he still had an audience. He did. Most people mind their business in a diner. Public conflict is like second-hand smoke. Everyone gets a little of it whether they want it or not. Order when you're ready, I said, pen poised, face blank. Ready now, he said. Steak, medium rare. If it's over, you'll know. And bring respect with the fries. I'll see if the kitchen stocks that, I said. What cut? The expensive one. We have ribeye and sirloin. He pretended to think, then rewarded himself with sirloin. His friends ordered safe. Burgers, ribs, a salad to create the illusion of balance. I wrote it all down because my brain is a sandbox and orders are the castles that collapse when someone sneezes. Back at the pass, Gus the cook slid me a look that said, again. He has hands like shovels and the patience of a man who has outlived multiple owners. He doesn't talk much. He lets the grill say it. I called the order out anyway because ritual matters when chaos is on tap. Sterling drifted by long enough to sigh. Table 4 is a lot. Take their check then, I said. He smiled like a parking ticket. Customer is always right. Then why am I so wrong? Attitude, he said, and vanished into the walk-in to examine the pickles for signs of leadership. I checked booth 7. Gray hoodie, simple watch, eyes on his plate. He ate like he was clocking in, calm, methodical, present. He didn't look at table 4, he didn't have to. He'd already mapped the room and measured the exits. The only time he'd raised his eyes since arriving was when the door opened and a kid ran in too fast. He tracked the kid's velocity like it worried him, then resumed his burger when Mom caught the shirt by the collar. Not paranoid, practical. The steak went out first because I believe in efficiency even when it's wasted. I set the plate down, pivoted the fries towards him like an usher with a spotlight. He took his knife, pressed the steak, and looked up at me like I'd overcooked his retirement. This, he said, is not medium rare. This is a hate crime. Looks medium rare to me, I said, because it did. Pink center, warm, juices that say hello instead of goodbye. Take it back. Tell the cook to try honesty this time. Happy to, I said, because I wanted to keep my job. But just know Gus has a policy about meat. It's cooked to order, not to memory. He smirked. Bring him out then, I'll educate. He said educate, the way raccoons say share. His friends watched me the way you watch a video you hope goes viral. I took the plate back. Gus glanced up. Let me guess. Hate crime. He didn't sigh. He overruled oxygen and simply existed with more gravity. He put the steak under the lamp, checked the temp by thumb and experience, and shrugged. Fire another, slightly bluer, for the Emperor. I'll comp a dessert, I said. Comp his manners, Gus said, but he fired the second steak because this is what we do. We over-deliver for people who under-respect, because somewhere in the math of survival, grace is cheaper than lawsuits. On my way back out, table 4 had expanded, as if rudeness has calories. Belly had the server manual open in his head, and he was reading it upside down. He waved me over with that two-finger motion that men use when they think they own a ship. Question, he said. What's your name again, boy? Nate. Nate, he repeated like he was testing if it would break. This is a nice place, for what it is, but you could be better. You smile right, you say sir right, you don't get cute, and you earn tips. I do all that, I said, except the sir part. My dad didn't leave me with that word. He smiled. It was an animal showing teeth. I like you. You've got rough edges. We could polish you. I'm not a ring, I said. Everyone's a ring, he said, and flicked his own like it was a doorbell. At the booth behind them, the mechanics were pretending not to watch. Deb the nurse had that look she gets when a patient won't take the medicine, and she's picturing where to put the IV. In the corner, 2 teenagers were sharing a milkshake like they were auditioning for nostalgia. It would have been a normal night of small, human dramas if Belly hadn't decided to add a subplot where he's the director. I set down fresh waters because hope is free. He took a sip, set it down, and grimaced. Too watery. Water often is, I said. It's one of its charms. He leaned back, chair squeaking under the load like it wanted to file a complaint. See, that's the thing, it's the attitude. You think it's cute. But tips, he tapped the table with a ring that clinked like a coin in a jar. Tips are merit-based. You're not entitled, you perform, we judge. Like acting, I said. Exactly. Break a leg, I said. That got a couple of smothers from nearby booths. Not laughs, suppressed survival noises. Belly's eyes narrowed. He leaned in, arms crossing, neck disappearing into a decision. Say, sir. No. Say, sir, boy. Not your boy. He smiled again, wider. The smiles were getting emptier the bigger they got. Now we're getting somewhere. You see how that feels? That little sting. It means we're fixing your attitude. There's a place your blood goes when someone tries to make you less. It rushes to your ears and hands, asks for instructions, and hopes you're wise. I took a breath. I counted the rent. I counted the utility bill. I counted how many steps it is from this spot to the time clock. I chose what I always choose. Survive now, be funny later. Your fresh steak's coming, I said, and stepped back, because if I stood there any longer I'd say something that would cost me my next month of groceries. That's when Booth 7 closed his menu. He didn't stand, not yet. He just placed the menu down like it weighed something. Then he lifted his water, drank, set it back with the kind of quiet that closes doors. The air noticed him first, the way a room notices a draft. It was a small shift, like how a bar adjusts when a cop walks in. The sound in the diner didn't stop, it stepped aside. Belly clocked it, but he misread the sign. He thought attention belonged to him by default. He turned, saw a man in a gray hoodie, and dismissed him the way he dismissed any variable he couldn't count. I delivered the second steak, bluer, risky if you're squeamish about reality. He cut into it. The center was exactly what he'd asked for. He chewed once, twice, 3 times as if he'd discovered Jaws. He swallowed like it owed him money. It's raw, he said. It's medium rare, I said. It's raw, he repeated louder, for the benefit of all within tax deduction range. I looked at the plate, at the man, at the life choices that led him here. I'll take it back, I said, because I had to. Don't bother, he said. Bring me the cook. He needs to see what meat looks like, and bring me your manager, the real one, not the child actor. Sterling heard his cue and became smoke. I glanced at the pass. Gus shook his head once, a slow metronome of not today. He doesn't parade, he's a kitchen monk. He feeds and he endures. There is a holiness to that I won't cheapen. Sir, I said, and yes, I used it because there are battles and there are wars. There's nothing the cook can do that hasn't been done. If you'd like another cut. He lifted his hand into my sentence like a stop sign. You don't talk while I talk, that's lesson 1. Something in me took a photo of that moment and developed it in red. Not rage, not even humiliation, documentation. For the group chat, for the memory, for the inventory of what I survive. That's when the chair in booth 7 moved. It didn't scrape, it didn't threaten, it just stood up without apology. He rose like it was the most normal thing in the world to do on a Thursday at 11:38 p.m. He was average height until you understood geometry, shoulders that knew their job, balance in his feet, posture that belonged to someone who enjoys breathing tomorrow. The hoodie made him look like any other night customer. His eyes made him look like every lesson you wish you learned sooner. He didn't walk toward us. He took 2 steps, enough to be present and not enough to be a problem. He kept his hands visible and empty, which, if you know, you know. The room pretended to keep eating. The forks were liars. Everything all right here? He asked me, not Belly. His voice was steady, an accent that travels with a British passport and a work ethic. I opened my mouth and a lot of things lined up to come out. What came out was simple, just a mix-up on the temp. Belly turned fully now, his ring hand on display like a business card. Who asked you, hoodie? The man in the hoodie, Jason, looked at the ring, then at the face attached to it. He didn't smile. He didn't frown. He did that neutral thing professionals do when they want everyone to have an exit. Would be ashamed to ruin a decent night over a steak, he said, mild enough to pass health codes. Belly laughed, relieved to find a new audience member. Look, boys, it's customer service Avengers. We got apron and we got, what are you, mate? Manager of vibes. Jason's eyes didn't change. Just eating, he said, trying to let people work. He said work, the way some people say church. It landed places in me that don't often get sunlight. Belly faced me again to assert hierarchy. I want your manager. He's here, Sterling lied, suddenly becoming visible like a ghost that remembered rent. He arrived with a smile and the leadership posture of a damp napkin. What seems to be the issue, gentlemen? Meat is raw, Belly said, tapping the plate. Service is worse. And this one, he hooked a thumb at Jason, who had the patience to remain a noun, is interrupting a paying customer. Sterling did the math in his head. 4 men, large bill, loud voices, a tip he could blame me for losing. He made the face managers make when they choose margins over morals. We'll comp the steak, he said, and dessert. You'll comp the whole meal, Belly corrected, staring at his reflection in his own water, and you'll educate your staff about respect. Jason didn't move. He didn't need to. His presence had already nudged the truth closer to the surface like a bubble. Sterling looked at me. I looked at the door. This is the part in other stories where the hero says something cinematic and the music swells. In real life, your tongue weighs 30 pounds and the room feels like it's watching your lungs. Jason turned his face to me, just a fraction like he was offering a lane. You all right? I'm fine, I said, which is the service industry's way of saying no. See, Belly said, he's fine, now teach him, sir. Jason's head tilted a notch like he was measuring the floorboards. Then he looked at Sterling. You've got cameras. We do, Sterling said, confused to be involved. Good, Jason said. Because if you're about to lecture your own staff in front of the dining room to save a tip, that's a training video you'll want to study. It wasn't loud. It didn't need to be. The words were lined up like they'd been rehearsed in other rooms for more money. Sterling blinked like he'd been hit by a polite truck. Belly snorted. Oh look, Belly said, the busser's got a bodyguard. I am not a busser. I am a server. Titles don't cost much, but respect does, and I felt the receipt crinkle. Jason's gaze returned to Belly. Not challenging, not retreating, he nodded at the plate. You ordered medium rare, that's medium rare. You sent back water for being water, you called him boy. That tells me you're not hungry, you're bored. One of Belly's friends decided to find his personality under the table. The other two tried to wear neutrality and failed. Their faces were doing community theater. Belly leaned forward, elbows like cinder blocks. You British. Sometimes, Jason said. This America, Belly declared, as if he just invented it. We pay, we say. You don't like it, take your hoodie and your TED Talk too. He didn't finish because the universe has timing. Somewhere near the door, the bell coughed again, and a kid tripped and spilled a soft drink. The sound made the room blink. In that half-second blink, Jason shifted his weight just enough that if you'd been training your whole life, you'd have written it down. Not a threat. A readiness to pick up what someone else drops, plates, tempers men. He looked at me, not at Belly. How do you want to handle it? No one ever asks a server that. Not in public. Not when the table is performing cruelty like it's karaoke. I wiped my hands on my apron and felt the stain of the night's decisions. I wanted to say, I want you to make him leave. I wanted to say, I want my manager to have a spine. I wanted to say, I want to work somewhere my name isn't an optional add-on. Instead, I said the safest truth I had. I want to finish my shift without needing a new job. Jason nodded once, quiet contract. He looked back at Sterling. Then help him do that. Sterling's mouth opened and closed like a drive-through window. He wasn't built for this. He was built for coupons. Sir, Sterling told Belly, trying to borrow dignity from the word, we're happy to remake the steak again or offer another dish on the house. But we can't have disrespect toward staff. That's policy. Belly laughed. It was short and humorless like a car alarm at noon. Your policy, my money. Jason didn't let it escalate into a decibel contest. Or you can eat the steak you ordered, he said, and leave a normal tip like a normal person, and we can all pretend adulthood is still in fashion. There was nothing cinematic about it. No threat, no heroic violins, just an invitation to act like he'd been civilized at least once. Belly's eyes went small. His friends decided to examine their phones, which were suddenly doing important things like pretending the weather existed. Deb, the nurse, planted her chin in her palm and watched with the attention of someone who administers consequences for a living. Who are you? Belly said, because when bullies run out of script, they hunt for names. Jason shrugged. A customer. Yeah, Belly said, that's what I thought. He forked another piece of steak as if eating could win arguments. He chewed with protest. He swallowed like it hurt his brand. He waved me closer without looking up. Bring the check, he said, and make sure it reflects the apology your cook owes me. I stood there, pen hovering over a blank I didn't know how to fill. Jason didn't move. He didn't need to. The temperature had shifted. The laughter had gone stale. The room wasn't on my side, rooms don't do sides, but it was no longer on his. I brought the check because life moves forward whether you're ready or not. I set it down. He lifted it like a verdict, scanned it, and smirked. Full price, he said. That's how eating works, I said, before my brain could put tape over my mouth. He slid a credit card into the folio like he was stabbing it. His friends found the courage to breathe again. Sterling hovered, pretending to manage. Jason returned to his booth and finished his fries one by one, as if counting to 10 with potatoes. The machine ran the card like a prayer. Approved. I brought the folio back with a pen that had witnessed better human behavior. He scribbled a signature that looked like a ransom note. Then came the tip line. This is where he would do the lesson. This is where he would teach me what merit looks like to a man who thinks "sir" is a leash. He wrote a number. He tore the slip. He slapped it down like he was slapping a face. Next time, he said, remember who's paying. I folded the check, slid the copy into my apron, and did not look. Pride is expensive entertainment. Rent is practical. They stood to go. Chairs scraped, leather squeaked, cologne lingered like regret. At the edge of the table, Belly paused, turned, and aimed one last blessing. Boy, he said like a stamp on an envelope, you're welcome. I'm not proud of what I said next. I'm also not sorry. For what? I said. The demonstration or the DNA? His friends made the ooh noise of middle school. Belly took a half step, so did the night. Jason was standing again, not closer, not farther, just exactly where he needed to be to catch something heavy if gravity made a poor choice. His hands were open. His shoulders were relaxed. He wasn't a wall. He was a set of options. Belly's eyes flicked to him, then back to me, then to Sterling, who was busy calculating how much paperwork a fight generates. In the end, math won. He scoffed, adjusted a ring, and walked out into the neon where rain had started. The street gave him a free shower and asked for nothing in return. The bell coughed. The door settled. Noise returned like it had been waiting in the parking lot. I took the folio to the server station, faced away from the room, and finally looked at the number on the tip line. It was a 0 that stubbornly refused to sprout friends. A note underneath, in sharp little letters. Earn it. Deb the nurse slid up beside me with the stealth of a woman who has seen everything twice. He going to the hospital tonight? She asked, not hopeful, just curious. Not from here, I said, and I meant it both ways. Jason approached the counter with his check. He'd left cash. Actual bills folded clean, the way generosity does its chores. For you, he said. That's not your table, I said. I'm aware, he said. You don't have to. He shook his head. I'm not paying for his manners. I'm paying for your work. There it was again. Work, like a word that could hold weight if you let it. Thanks, I said. It came out rough. The night had sanded me. Get some water, he said, nodding at the drink station. Without ice, very dangerous stuff. That got a small laugh out of me I hadn't budgeted for. He gave me a nod like a sign-off, then turned to go. He didn't want applause. He didn't want a scene. He wanted dinner. As he passed table 4's empty booth, he paused just long enough to pick up the abandoned steak knife and set it blade down in the ramekin, because safety is a habit. Then he left. The bell cough-laughed, and the neon wrote his shape in electric outline for half a second before the rain erased it. I refilled coffees. I ran cards. I bussed plates. Life resumed its treadmill. Sterling reappeared to remind me not to antagonize guests. I reminded him I didn't. He reminded me customers are always right. I reminded him water is wet. We called it a draw. At closing, the math came due. I counted the till. I counted the tips. I counted the table I didn't get. The night still stung, but the sting had a border now. I felt less like a target and more like a person who hadn't been left alone with wolves. Everyone in this job learns to be your own rescue. Sometimes someone else shows up and holds a corner while you catch your breath. I stepped outside into the rain, apron in a plastic bag, shoes arguing with puddles. The city was rinsing off the day like it had plans in the morning. Across the street, under the awning of the payday place, the gray hoodie stood, hands in pockets, waiting out the weather as if he could negotiate with clouds. "You don't have to do that," I said, not sure which part I meant. He shrugged. "I like this diner. Be a shame if it turned into a YouTube video." I nodded, "Thanks for you know." He gave that almost smile people do when they're allergic to credit. "You did fine," he said. "You didn't need me." "Maybe not," I said, "but it helped that you were there." "Sometimes it does," he said, and the rain agreed by getting louder. We stood in the doorway like two humans who had chosen not to make anyone's night worse. Then he lifted a hand, small wave, and headed into the rain like it was the price of admission. I watched him go until the street lamp made him an outline, and the darkness made him a rumor. Then I locked the door and went home to sleep the kind of sleep you only get when you survive something small and stupid that could have been larger and dumber. That's the thing about nights like that. They don't end with confetti. They end with receipts. And sometimes, if you're lucky, with a little proof that the loudest voice isn't the only one that counts.